basically found it then. So that would have been big time useful for that. Because we went on payroll and did work this year. So we feel it's a great use of the money to go for something specialized like that. Probably last us a lifetime. Shouldn't use it, it's not like something we're going to use every day. Mutual aid's getting bigger and bigger every year between them helping us and us helping them, whether it's Conway or Bartlett or where it is. Seven Colony has one. Most Colony has one.
What is the cost?
It's $12,400 for the basic one. So the association is gonna flip the rest of the money that the donation that we don't have. So the association is gonna use some of the donated money we have to finalize it. Multi-agency use, fire department, EMS, mutual aid, the PD, I know Charlie's behind it 100%.
So tell me what it's called.
Like
what is it called again?
UTV, it's one of the, looks like a gator.
Got it.
With a.
Like an all-terrain vehicle, but it's a.
Yeah, it's an ATV basically, but it's a.
Got it.
3-seater.
Gotcha.
With a little dump body on the back.
Okay.
We put a plate on it. It actually, they go over the road really well. I mean, I wouldn't want to go down interstate with it, but
Right.
I mean, you could go from here to Tyrol the same way, or even safer than you would in a car, as time-wise. So that's.
Okay, when you say you beg, borrow, and steal to get up to the communications tower, you can't get there in the truck?
You can get there in a pickup, but there's certain times of the year where mud season is harder. You can get up there in a pickup, but it's like, for instance, we went up to cut brush this year, and it was really handy to be able to, have a four-wheeler or a side-by-side or UTV, whatever you want to call them, where, it's just so much easier. And then in the winter time, we need to go up there in the winter, it's snowfield. So yeah, you can get up there, but this is much more or less intrusive to the, pickup is, you can get up there, but it the mud set, there's one section that's a swale of mud that, you're always running it up, and it's definitely better on the land to do it with an ATV.
So this is my ignorance here. Do you have to license and insure those like you do for?
I would just be insured like all the other equipment we have.
Because you can't, I know you can't ride ATVs in the town of Jackson, so this would be a special use vehicle for the fire department?
I could buy, if you had a construction job going and I had
Gotcha.
a UTV, I had a construction plate on it. Actually, I'm using it for construction. I could ride up and down the road just like a car does.
Gotcha. Okay.
As long as it's specific to whatever use you don't have to.
Not recreation or whatever. Yeah.
Farming or whatever. But
Gotcha.
yeah, but there's no liability or insurance like that as far as like a vehicle.
Okay.
You'll get a government plate on it?
Yeah, I'd have to look at that, but yeah, you can get a government plate for, it's what they call it, construction plates or special plate. So it's nothing that we jumped right into. We've actually been, we looked at forestry equipment. We looked at whether we buy more thermal imagers. We looked at forestry truck, which, is the next subject we want to talk about. Looked at equipment for that. We looked at building fund. We looked at the fire station study fund. We looked at talked about all kinds of stuff, and everybody felt this was probably the best use or something.
Well, we have to think about it because you are asking for a lot of things right now. So I think it's It sounds like a reasonable request. But certainly the fire department has any number of things they can spend money on. So I think we should be careful, but, what do you think? Want to take a vote on whether we give the go-ahead for that purchase?
It sounds like, it's something that your team has thought about very carefully. I'm wondering if you had like a few ideas that you kicked around that would be big purchases, that this ended up to be it, or if this was kind of something like you said you've been considering for years and you finally have a means to do it. So just curious.
There's no other big purchases. I mean, we got some regular equipment to buy all the time. We had some hose purchases coming up, fire hose purchases coming up, which is fairly expensive because it's large diameter. But I'm thinking when we buy the next fire truck, we just get the hose for that fire truck and we put it off on that. I've been putting it off for a while.
And then, like you
There's
said,
no
you
other
wanted to
major-
make this sort of a special
Well,
purchase
Yeah,
because you could
it's,
name it.
like, just like the money that we raise through the association,
Mhm,
we don't like that, people donate money and quite a bit of money.
mhm.
Whether it's, Jaws of Life or thermal imagers or those types of things are definitely special purchases rather than just buying fire hose with donated money or buying batteries for your pages with donated money.
Right.
If everybody feels donated money like that, it should be something very specialized.
Are there add-ons to it? Do you have to get a radio? And...
We're gonna try to keep that as simple, nothing major. We are gonna probably, we'll look at down the road, whether we buy a little mini pump set up for forestry, which is something that gets used a lot these days. That's something I'd look at through donating to the association type of money. Nothing major. I mean, you could make it as expensive as you wanted to make it. I mean, you can spend 25, 30 grand on those things with 4-seaters with, all kinds of fancy stuff. But we're trying to keep it as simple and basic and cover what we need for the use right now. So I don't see nothing major.
Where are you gonna park it?
In between the Porsche truck and the pickup.
Any further discussion on this?
I don't have any other questions.
John? Good. All right.
I think it sounds like a good valid purchase. If, I don't know if you want to take more time to think about it or not, but it sounds like you've already given it thought on your committee.
All right. Vote. Make a motion to go ahead with the purchase of a
UTV
UTV for the fire department.
at approximately
I
$12,400.
believe that's 12.4 in that range. So
Who would you buy it from?
we got a best price so far is from Colebrook Bombardier deal.
Yeah.
They were the best price, and I've heard their service has been impeccable. We got a price from them, Profile, I believe, Town and Country, but they told me they're closing ASAP. It's probably not going to be a rush thing because ATVs right now or snowmobiles or anything, all equipment as far as that goes, is you got to wait for them because the factories aren't anything. They're not making them very quick. Nobody has any help. My gear I ordered this year, a couple weeks ago, a month ago, whenever it was, my regular flying gear. Usually I wait a month. Usually I order it in August and then I get it this time of year. There's 5 months out because they don't have any help. You can't get the materials. because of COVID stuff. So one of those places, and so I'd say between 12 and 13 grand is, you know, the association, we kind of added it up to 5 grand. So we had a $15,000 number total between 10,000 from the town and the 5,000 from the association to look at it. So,
Is this going to add anything else to your budget come next year
am I adding anything to the budget
for this?
piece of equipment? No, not that I know of yet, and I don't plan on anything big,
The only thing it'll get is insurance.
Mhm.
which should be pretty minimal, I would think.
They don't break it down like item by item.
I'll make a motion to allow the fire department to purchase a UTV for up to $13,000 to be paid for with $10,000 that was contributed to the town, and the additional fees coming from the association.
I'll second that.
John, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Barbara, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Bennett, yes.
So Jay, are you going to ask for that money to come out of the trust funds prior to the end of the year?
Prior to what?
The end of this year.
It sounded like it could be 2 or 3 months before I would get it.
Okay, that's fine. We'll just need
I mean, I can do it whichever way you guys want.
Usually the trustees like to know if there are purchases that are gonna reduce the cash in the account, so if you do it in January, that's fine.
It's up to you guys if you want me to wait a little bit and do it after the first of the year, or you want to get going now on it, whatever I can do either.
Do you want to coordinate that and just,
Let me know.
Yeah,
let us
I
know
don't
the
think it matters, I just think that they need to know if they're gonna make a withdrawal.
Okay, I'll work on that as soon as I can to figure out if we pick which one we're gonna get. Can either pay for it now or wait till it comes in and pay for it, however.
and my next question is going to be, can I see the quotes when you get them?
What?
The quotes from the dealers?
I've got them.
Perfect. So I'll just grab a copy for you at the end.
And I do need to say that, I don't know if this meeting is being live streamed or not, but I just found out that you had some technical difficulties, phone numbers are correct, the link is incorrect.
I do have 3 people on the call now. Thank you, Jen.
Oh, good, okay.
So
Those might all be DOT people.
there, 2 out of 3 are, I know, but I would assume all 3 are.
But if anyone needs, further questions, then it's good.
Okay. Thanks, Jay.
I just need those back. or-
Yep, I'll get copies to you. Okay, so do you have other things you want to talk about?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
It is 3:58 and the DOT is on the phone, and our 4 o'clock public hearing was supposed to be with them. Should we flip to that and then go back to you? Do you have a problem with that?
How long will we be, Jay?
It'll probably be more than 2 minutes.
Okay. I believe that.
You want me to?
We're gonna have to let the DOT go.
Okay.
Do you mind hanging around then?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Don't mind at all.
All right, Jackie, I'm gonna unmute you here, and then,
Hello.
hi, Jackie. I'm Barb
Hi.
on Zoom, and then we have Dick Bennett and John Allen with the Town of Selectmen and several other audience members. Do you need Joseph or Michael to be unmuted as well?
Could you go ahead and unmute them just in case they have anything to
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have Jackie Hoza. Did I say your name correctly?
Haza.
Jackie Haza, Joseph Adams, and Michael Moser on the phone from Department of Transportation.
All right. Just give me a second to get my presentation up here. All right, hi everyone. I am Jackie Haza. I'm an engineer for the New Hampshire Department of Transportation, and I am here today to discuss the New Hampshire DOT's bridge preservation project named Bartlett-Jackson 419 9. Before I get into a summary of the project and the work that we are looking to be doing in the town of Jackson, I just have a brief environmental statement, which I need to read, which was provided by our Bureau of Environment. So I'll read through that quickly and then I'll move on to my presentation.
Okay.
So this is on behalf of the Bureau of Environment. As a part of the National Environmental Policy Act and other state and federal regulations, the NHDOT must investigate the potential impacts that our projects will have on the surrounding natural, cultural, and social environment. Identifying key resources early in the project development process enables the department to avoid or minimize impacts as design proceeds. Part of our review involves identifying historic and cultural resources. In accordance with Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act, the department reviewed the project area to determine if there are historic or cultural resources within the vicinity that would be impacted by the construction of this project. Historic and cultural properties can include buildings and structures 50 years or older, as well as archaeological sites. In addition to age, it also must be determined if a structure maintains enough integrity to be eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. The existing concrete rigid frame bridge was constructed in 1933 with significant widening in 1981. The bridge was determined not eligible for the National Register of Historic Places as the 1981 widening had significant impacts on the bridge's proportions and loss of original finishes, affecting its integrity of design and workmanship. A remnant, former foundation, bridge abutment, or other feature was located approximately 50 feet from the roadway in the northeast quadrant, although no impacts are anticipated. Further study has determined there is no potential to cause effect for archaeological resources, as the proposed undertakings will be confined to already disturbed soils. However, we are asking that if anyone has concerns about historical or archaeological resources in or adjacent to the project area, they bring them to our attention tonight or contact us after this meeting. Regarding environmental resources, a wetland registration will likely be needed for the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services for temporary scaffolding. As the project proceeds, we will continue to coordinate with the appropriate agencies to avoid or minimize impacts to the Ellis River. Additionally, the project is located within the ranges of the northern long-eared bat and the Canada lynx, which are both federally protected as threatened species by the Endangered Species Act. It is not anticipated that this work will jeopardize these species. The work is not anticipated to adversely affect water or air quality, contribute to noise pollution, encounter contaminated materials, or impact conservation lands. Okay, thank you. So that was a statement from our Bureau of Environment. I'm going to be posting that onto our project website. So if anybody would like to review or reach out to our environmental coordinator, Erin Mills, that information will be available on our New Hampshire DOT project-specific website for this project, as well as a handout which gives a little bit more information on that section 106, which was mentioned. So those will be on the project website. Okay, so moving on from that, I will just pull up my presentation. And I'll switch over to.
I thought I turned it up. There, she's sharing her screen.
Presenter view. Is everybody able to see that?
We're on a Zoom and a live meeting, so you're presenting and I've turned my computer around, so.
Oh, great.
It's kind of, some can see, some can't, but.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. I will. Give me a second. Okay. Sorry, it's just blocking me out of my view here. Sorry, I'm just having an issue with my separate screens. Okay. So I am here to talk about the project Bartlett Jackson 41989.
All right, Jackie?
Yes.
So before you had it on the monitor and now it's like a very small piece and I see both of your monitors. So however you had it before, it was the full screen.
All right, great.
There we go.
That's the full screen now for us.
All right. Oh, and did that just send it back to?
Nope, that's good.
I've never had it
Now it's small, but
flopping
you
around
know,
like this.
I think you can probably just go with it because not all of us are going to be able to see it regardless.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to pull this down. Okay, so this project is going to address two bridges. One of the bridges will be Bartlett 153-108, which is located down in Bartlett. It's carrying US 302 over the Stony Brook River. The bridge we're here to talk about today is bridge number 92-130. This bridge, as you can see, is located on New Hampshire Route 16. It's about 5 miles north of the town center down in Jackson. And here is just a closer view of the site which we're looking at. Just a little bit of background on the bridge. This bridge was built in 1933, as we mentioned in the environmental memo. It was rebuilt in 1981 to the existing typical that it is today. The bridge is about 56 feet long and it has a curb-to-curb width of 50 feet. The bridge carries approximately 3,600 vehicles per day across it. So a little bit about the bridge condition. The bridge is the deck and superstructure are currently rated as fair and the substructure is rated as good. As you can see, I know you guys have kind of a small screen here, but I have a few photos of the condition. You can see that there is some spalling and effervescence here. And basically that just means that water has been able to get into the deck and it has accelerated the deterioration of the concrete rigid frame that we have here. So there's some cracking and some spalling, so some pieces are falling out. So work that we are going to do in order to address that deterioration, we're going to do full and partial depth concrete repairs, and we're going to add a new deck membrane and new pavements. So basically we're going to go in, rip out the pavement from the top of the bridge, rip out the existing deck membrane, address all of those soft spots which I showed in the previous slide, where the water is leaking through. We'll add new concrete in there and then we'll put in a new deck membrane to protect that bridge so we can extend the lifespan of it. In addition, at this bridge we have some stone facing, so we're going to go in and we'll clean and we'll regrout the stone facing so there's not the leaking that you can see in the picture on the right. So there's some leaking behind. We'll go through and we will address that, along with any additional patching which may need to be done to the substructure. But the bulk of the work is going to be focused on the concrete deck. So from there, how we're going to get this work done.
All right, Jackie,
yes.
Dick had a question.
Oh, sure.
Oh, there was some discussion about aesthetics on the bridge abutments of stone veneer, something along those lines. Anyway, has anything been finalized on those thoughts?
So when we had first begun looking at this bridge, we were looking at the stone facing and trying to decide if the water which was coming through there would be damaging enough to warrant taking off that stone facing and replacing it with just a concrete facing. And we decided that we should be all set with just cleaning off that stone facing and regrouting it. So The facade will not change. It will be the same stone. We'll just be cleaning and regrouting it.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so traffic control. When we have projects like this, we always look at two alternatives for our traffic control. The first alternative is looking to totally shut down the bridge and do all the work in one phase using a detour. And then the second is to maintain traffic across the bridge through phased construction. This next slide shows what the detour would be if we shut down the bridge completely and then detoured traffic on state roads. I know it's small for you guys, but it comes out to be over a 75-mile detour on state roads. So that would not be the preferred alternative here. So what we're proposing is phased traffic. So we would do the work for this bridge in two phases. The first phase, we show the travelway in green and the work zone in red. So for the first phase, we would maintain two-way traffic by using two 12-foot lanes in each, or one 12-foot lane in each direction to maintain that two-way traffic. And then for the second phase, we would be using alternating one-way traffic, and that would be signal controlled. So we would have stoplights out beyond the bridges. So here's just a aerial overview of what that would look like. The top is phase one. As you can see, we're maintaining that two-way traffic. And then down on the bottom, we have the second phase where we would have our signals at the approaches to the bridges in order to control the flow of traffic. We're anticipating these phases would be in effect for about 4 weeks per phase for a total of 2 months of construction in this area. A few additional details on the project area and the project. All of the work will be completed inside of the department's existing right-of-way. There's no utility relocation anticipated. And based on the scope of work, we are planning on applying for a routine roadway permit, which goes along with that environmental piece. And this permit will allow us to have scaffolding in the river in order to access the bottom of this bridge. The work is scheduled to be completed in the 2021 construction season. We have an anticipated start date in April, and then all work should be completed by October. We also have that other Bartlett Bridge with this project, so they will be likely going on concurrently. And then finally, the total project cost is $425,000 for both bridges, 325 of that going towards the Jackson Bridge.
Okay, hold on, I have a question. Jay Henry has a question. He's our fire chief.
Yes.
How's it going?
Hi.
What's the plan to maintain sidewalk use during the whole job? The last bridge that's finishing as we speak, like right now, or the other stone bridge on Route 16,
Sure.
they pretty much shut the sidewalk down and there was no plans made to maintain pedestrian traffic. And what happened was in the one-lane traffic while they were working, people were trying to walk in the road while dump trucks and cars and all that good stuff were trying to squeeze through the 10-foot open, and there was many cases where it did not go well.
Yeah. So this bridge is farther up 16. It's about 5 miles away from where the work was on that previous bridge, which wrapped up a couple weeks ago, I guess. There's no sidewalk on this.
Data place.
Oh, that's a damn.
Yeah,
Data
Oh, I
place.
thought they were talking about the one over here.
Yeah, so this is
Stone veneer on the one up to Dana Place?
Yeah, they want to put a stone veneer on that initially.
Oh, so this is the one up to Dana Place?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought this was.
nope, that's all right.
Okay, cancel that.
So yeah, there's no sidewalk through here.
Okay.
It didn't, when we went on our visit, it didn't seem like a section of the road that there would be too many pedestrians, but if you guys have other information on pedestrian use in this area,
No.
that would be great too. All right, so I will go back to
Is
the
there any,
project summary.
interference with the hiking trails? I know the Hall Trail starts near there.
So
Is it Hall Trail?
Don't know.
I know,
let me jump back to this aerial. So in the southeast quadrant, am I getting that correct? Over, can you guys see my pointer? Maybe I need to laser pointer. Can you see this now?
Yeah.
So I believe the trail is right in this section.
Mm-hmm.
Do people park along here to access that? Or is it maybe along Glen Road?
usually they park up at Rocky Branch parking lot and walk. But again, that's not everybody.
Okay. Just taking a note of that. So one of the things that we are planning on including in our contract for this project is a note to the contractor of where the entrance to this trail is, so that their staging equipment is in an opposite section, so it wouldn't interrupt access to the trail. So is the parking lot that you're talking about, is that up north of the bridge and people are walking down across to access
Correct.
the trail, or are they, it
Yeah,
is up north? Okay.
Yeah.
they walk across the bridge and then cross the road, I believe, if
Okay.
I remember correctly. I haven't hiked that in years.
Okay. Okay, we can definitely look into that parking situation more, and come up with
In
something.
theory, they probably could establish a small place on that side, same side of the road, so they wouldn't have to do that if that's an issue. It would
Okay.
something that probably be carved out temporarily.
Mhm.
It doesn't get a huge amount of traffic.
Okay. Yeah, we will look into that and we'll get back to you. All right, so then back to this last slide, just your input is needed. So any feedback you have on emergency response routes, mutual aid from or to adjacent towns, school bus routes, bicycle or pedestrian use like we were talking about, and any other concerns that you have in this area.
There are a fair amount of ambulance calls up on the curve, up on the
Yeah.
town line there, but
Okay. Okay, so when we have the signal in place, we can provide signal preemption devices for emergency vehicles. I'll be reaching out to police and fire about that so that we know how many to provide for you guys.
Yeah, we looked at
So that
that.
you can trip that
Yeah.
signal.
Yeah, but we opted out of it and it worked fine. We didn't have any issues.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that for a second.
Yeah, yeah, that shouldn't be a problem.
Okay, awesome. All right, so that's all I had for my presentation. Were there any other questions or concerns that you guys had?
No, I just hope the stone veneer does not
up here.
come up. I don't think there's any need for it, so
Yep.
that's a conversation that gets dropped.
Yep. Yeah, we're not gonna be moving forward with replacing that stone
Yeah.
facing. So
The state's flipping the bill for this?
yes.
That's an important
That's an
question.
important
That's
question.
right.
Thank you.
All right.
Mike or Joe, did you guys have anything to add? Okay.
No, this is Joe Adams. No, I didn't have anything to add. Usually when we do these in person, that's one note I do make, is that this is all federal and state funded, so there are no town dollars associated with this. So.
Good.
All right.
Okay. So I have Joe is our project manager for this project. I have his information at the bottom of this slide. I also provided it to Julie to add into your meeting minutes in case anybody wasn't able to sign on today and they read the minutes and had further questions. So if anything else comes up, That information will be provided, so feel free to reach out and we can answer any further questions.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie and Mike and Joe. Appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we'll go back to our meeting. Jay, I think you were speaking.
Yep. Forestry truck, there's no money, that's the great money, that's a good thing.
Yeah, keep going.
The next two items, we don't have any very money yet. We'd like to entertain the idea of upgrading our forestry truck down the road with one of Pat's 1-tons, Dodges, small trucks, whatever you want to call them. When he gets ready to turn that in and update that. Our forestry truck we have now, and it should be a really low, shouldn't be much of a money thing, other than whatever the trade-in value is on it, you would lose that. Our existing forestry truck is a 80-something old Army truck. It's been great for what we've done with it. We paid $1 for it from Hanscom Air Force Base. Bruce Hill actually managed to figure that whole thing out way back when. And the idea is to upgrade to something more user-friendly, something everybody can drive. For those of you that know anything about Army trucks, they're not all that much fun to drive with manual steering and the tires they have. More user-friendly, something we could use more year-round. It would be similar setup, it'd just be, you know, a 1-ton truck with a flatbed on it and some toolboxes and forestry stuff, and we've got some hazmat stuff, a bunch of speedy dry on it. We, you know, storms that we've been getting, like windstorms, the last windstorm that was happened right here, that would have been a really good example where we could have used the truck more to ride around and check stuff and check on people. It's more, you know, be more user friendly, automatic, easy to get in and out of. So that's kind of what we'd like to do down the road. Like I said, it's not a big money item. Wouldn't take a lot of money to make it work. Pretty inexpensive. I mean, I'd ask him to do something like that. It's about as frugal as you can be, rather than spending $200,000 or $300,000 on an official, real forestry fire truck. I mean, it's not like we go to 200 horse calls a year, so we really, I feel we don't necessarily have to have a brand new truck for that use. The idea of making it multi-use is huge. That way we can use it in the summer and the winter. The other item is, and Kevin can attest to this, more and more people are building in miserable locations, class 6 roads up in the middle of nowhere. Just in the last couple of years, the amount of class 6 stuff that we've worked on has increased big time. So it'd be something that could get in, you know, really bad weather. It's small, you could get in somewhere and at least have some tools and some water and some equipment to try to do something.
What would be the value of Pat's truck that we would assume?
We haven't gone that far. The last truck that, when I traded the GMC for this specific truck that we're talking about. The GMC went to LA Drew for 15, 20 grand maybe.
Mm-hmm.
The old truck, the Army truck we had is starting to show some issues. It's got, you know, it's the antifreeze issue. So that's kind of what like I said, I'm not asking for anything right now, I don't know. It's another, that one's a 2013, I believe, that one ton. I'm not sure when that's on Pat's plan for trade-in, next couple of years or when it is.
If you could get that information, that would probably be helpful to know.
Yeah, I
because, well,
just kind of wanted to
just
bring
to-
it up to.
Sure.
prepare.
Yep.
Kind
Something
of
to think
curious
about.
what your thoughts would be on something like that, to try to make our forestry, well, we call it HD one, which is heavy disaster.
Mhm.
Use it for doing flood stuff, forestry stuff, anything like that. But kind of more of an informational thing, and kind of curious if you guys would support something like that.
Well, the old forestry truck's probably antique, might get some big bucks on that.
That's right.
tree.
Donate it to the forestry museum.
Yeah.
We've actually used it, the truck has, it's a really good truck. Been great for going up ski areas and floods and all that. We used it more out of town than we used it in town because it's so good for,
Mm.
been on a forest fire, I thought that attached with it. We did 2 major floods with it in Bartlett. Hurricane Irene, there's a big video of it, rescuing people down on the campground.
Yeah.
How many times been on the railroad tracks and off crop and notch. So it definitely has some use, but we just get something more user friendly. Drivers are getting harder and harder to come by, and as time goes on, having old fashioned truck drivers are few and far between these days. So that's, kind of curious if you support it coming up.
Definitely need to know all the facts, but, it sounds like a good consideration.
Doable.
Yep.
We already got the truck, we
Yeah.
already paid for it.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks, Jay.
And the third item,
Well,
The Class 8 pumper.
yeah,
we have C 1, 2, 3, we should have had a different thing.
so coming up for our capital plan is a replacement of a fire truck in 2022. The officers that we talked about it for 2 years, thinking about what we're going to do down the road. We recently talked a lot about, do we replace it? Do we try to keep the one we got longer? What do we do? We've talked about that a lot, and we'd like to keep planning for a 2022 purchase of this Class A pumper tanker. It's pretty expensive, $616,000
Right now.
is today's price for basically the same thing that we've got. A little bit different, but not drastically different, I guess. We looked at putting that off, trying to put it off as long as we can. One of the problems with that is, the longer we put it off, the more it puts 2 fire trucks getting replaced in close proximity to each other, and they're not cheap. One of the biggest problems right now is the cost of emissions, and the cost of iron and steel is taken. One of the reasons I brought this up is the cost every year of the trucks increasing has dramatically gone up in the last couple of years, and it's played a little bit of havoc with our capital plan. You're talking 50 grand a year at 600,000. They've been going up 7. It used to go up 3% a year. Now with the emissions stuff that's going on, they're going up 7 to 10% every single year with all the emissions trucks. The price of steel, the price of aluminum, the price of all that is the 2 big ones. So we're talking at 616,000 in 2000. That's today's price. You're talking 50 grand a year increase. We've got most of the money. taped up because of the way the town puts $80,000 a year away. A couple of years ago, maybe more than a couple, we used to put 100,000 away for fire trucks. And we'd like to, because of that drastic cost that I found out about in the last year, going up more than 30% a year, we'd like to go, you know, when the budget season comes, I'm gonna ask to increase that fund from 80 back to 100 where it was. But we talked about that already. And that'll have most of the money. We'll get close, but it's just a big expense, huge expense. Pump is getting temperamental on it. Any of the fire pumps they're just temperamental. It doesn't take much sand to wipe them out and have a big expense. Two other issues. We've done, and I was working on it today, we have spent countless hours at offices meetings, and I've got a credible amount of time trying to figure out any option that we can do to either do a different type of truck, a different size truck, try to bring the cost down from that 660 to 616 of today's cost. We keep trying. I was working on it today, and it's tough with the topography we have in Jackson. You just can't buy an off-the-shelf truck for $450,000. Like you might be able to do if you were in Flatlands, Nebraska somewhere. Length causes issues, everything, horsepower. It's just very tough where we live. It's a true custom built truck. It's not off the shelf. If you Google fire trucks, you'd be like, well, I'm paying $616,000 when there's one here for, you know, 500 or whatever.
Yeah.
So we continue. I spent an hour before I came here. We're looking at an option of going from a 10-wheeler to a single axle truck. Trying to get it as short as we possibly can. And that one come down around 590, 589 or something like that. Wasn't a huge savings to make a bunch of cuts.
Wouldn't it make sense to, you know, maybe include this in the feasibility study? Because obviously if we're gonna be building it, if this truck is, you're looking at, wasn't there a length issue at one point?
Yeah, it's a little bit longer.
Wouldn't it make sense to do those at the same time so we can have the building fit the truck instead of trying to modify?
Well, any new building will fit the truck.
Well, I mean, this one won't.
Right.
Yeah, so we're gonna modify this one and then,
No.
Yeah, pretty minimal. If we had to do that, it's in the grand scheme of things, it's pretty minimal, you know, 10 or 15 grand. We could probably make the truck fit in there if we had to. So, or we wait, if we end up waiting, we end up waiting. But it's still a separate issue. I mean, it's definitely, that's in the thoughts of the feasibility study and all that, but it's definitely two separate issues.
But are you presenting this today just to like get us excited for budgeting time and just kind of set the?
Didn't want anybody to be surprised when we come in. I wanted you to be aware that when we come in 2022, it's, you know, I want to have all the minutes.
Mhm.
I don't want anybody to be surprised when we say, hey, we're going to spend 700 grand this year. You know, and just letting you know ahead of time. That's why I wanted to bring it up now.
Gotcha.
Because it is a big item.
Yes.
Well, it'd certainly be applicable to raise what we put into the capital reserve now to kind of prepare for that.
Yeah,
Because
that's part of it.
as I listen, I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna have these costs for the fire department, we're gonna have highway department vehicle costs, and we've got the police department, they wanna hold on to the Tahoe.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if that's gonna go or not, we'll talk about that some other time, but it is a good indicator for us to start thinking ahead on all of these, but putting the money ahead too. So it's a good time to, when we get to the budgets, and budget season is coming right up
Yes, it is.
like tomorrow.
We've got 300,000 or 400,000 in the bank for this particular truck. So it's not gonna be a big hit money-wise, it's just gonna be some,
It's just gonna be a
still
lot of
seems like
money.
a big hit.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So anyway, all I'm saying is, it is great to hear from you, the needs, and then for us to say, okay, what are we gonna put in the budget?
Mhm.
And prepare for this. Thank you.
Yep. That's it, I just wanted to prepare you with what we're gonna be asking for in 2 years. The only other item I got is really quick, it's place of assembly permits have been going on, a little unusual, but they've gone on all summer, fine, dandy. Most of the businesses are good shape, fine, no issues, they were all, they were self-inspections, check sheet from the fire marshal's office where the business would check off everything I look at, so I didn't have to go in the businesses. I haven't trying to figure out when I'm gonna go back to actually inspect them. Most of the stuff we find at any of these places is normal, everyday stuff, so it's no big deals. So those are all looking good, all completed for the year. The school inspection is the only thing, the only normal yearly thing I still got left to do. And the other thing I was gonna mention was yesterday, Kevin, Emily, and I got together, talked about some FirstNet telephone stuff on Wildcat, and we kind of briefly talked about COVID stuff and how everybody was doing and policy stuff and masks, ordering masks and all that kind of stuff. So you guys, so we get together and updated ourselves and preparing, what we gotta prepare for.
All right.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
D,
All right, then, the ongoing discussion of Thornhill Road pedestrian traffic. I did talk with Pat Kelly. Next spring, he's gonna try to, re-ditch, leaving, a gravel walkway on the right-hand side going uphill. I think all of it is gonna be, if we do an intersection, a crosswalk, we have to do lighting, so we're gonna have to look into that, what that's gonna entail. I think all aspects of it, but we'll keep working at it. We certainly wanna make the roads safe for everybody, bicycles, pedestrians, still skateboarders too, aren't they? Nothing to me, but.
If they're skateboarders on Thornhill,
All right, but
God bless them.
it's, Pat is trying to work with the folks and,
it is tough everywhere with pedestrian traffic. I mean,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
People wearing walk on the right side of the road.
and then the winter comes and you got snowbanks and everything gets,
It's
a
just
little
not,
more
these roads
narrow.
aren't made for it
So anyway,
anywhere.
it was nice that Pat was able to talk with Micah and a few of the other residents there and just come up with some ideas too, like you said, to build up the gravel and try to make things as safe as they can and just know what some of the potential areas are. So it's good communication.
okay, then our next item is the intent to cut on Thornhill Road. Right here. R14 lot 25 is a 53 acre lot of which they intend to work on 40 acres of it. I guess the forester has, no, I think it's the harvester has filled out anyway, what they think will come out, and our town forester will check that when it's completed. So on that, I think we'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the intended cut on R14 L25.
And I will second that motion.
John, how do you
I
vote?
vote yes.
Barbara, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Richard Bennett, yes. All right. And pass this along, you sign.
Did you sign that DOT, paperwork?
There's two, right, this big packet right here, there's two places to sign on that.
Okay.
You got to date it.
Hmm?
You got to date it. Next to your name.
I do need my glasses.
I'm afraid there isn't space for you to
Oh,
sign this.
You get all the fun.
They can't read it.
There you go, sir.
We have the DRA equalization certificate. Sign up on. We understand that this information will be used by the New Hampshire Department of Revenue Administration to calculate the municipality's equalization ratio. The equalization ratio will be used to calculate the total equalized valuation for this municipality. In other words, they try, it comes from our assessor. He does all the real work on it. And for school funding, they want equalized evaluation of all the towns across the state so they can balance out what the payments are. I'm going to sign it. Oh, should we take a vote to sign it? I don't think, do
Do we have to take a vote to sign that one?
we vote on that, or?
I think in the past you typically have anytime you sign anything, but
I mean, it's more,
I guess it's making a motion to agree with.
okay, I'm going to be careful, and let's entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the DRA equalization certificate.
I will second.
John, how do you vote?
Yes.
I think it's actually verifying that what you have given the DRA is accurate.
Right.
Barbara, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Bennett, yes. Now, sign it. All right. Now, we have some interesting material to think about. The tax rate. So we've gotten preliminary figures back, and it looks like we have some options. If we, I think if we use $100,000 from the fund balance, we end up with the, let's see if I get it right,
Mhm.
tax rate will be lower. it will be $11.04. We use no, excuse
God
me,
bless you.
gosh, glad I have my mask on, huh? Last year it was $11.26 a thousand. With no fund balance applied this year, it would be $11.25 per thousand. If we apply $100,000 of the fund balance, it would be $11.04 a thousand. And, oh,
That one might have gotten cut off the bar.
And if we apply 150,000, it would be $10.93. Did you want to keep it that at all? or do you-
Okay.
And
So-
if you use the 100,000, the municipal rate would remain the same at 455. If you use 150,000, the municipal rate would, I believe, go to 444. Is that
Right.
444, yep,
444, correct.
saving 11 cents per thousand.
Mhm. Which I believe on a $250,000 house, it was $86,
83.
$83.
And the recommendation from Tammy was her thought, this year we're looking at it a little bit differently because normally we bring the fund balance within the range of 11 to 12%. We're not gonna do that this year just because of the uncertainty of what next year looks like. So the recommendation is to keep the fund balance a little bit higher. So that's because we just don't know what things, how this is gonna unfold.
Right, so it'd be 15.3 if we used 150,000 of the fund balance would be.
Percentage of the fund balance remaining,
What we're
Right.
paying.
which is more than we typically keep, but again, it's being strong.
$880,000 roughly.
And we're very thankful that we didn't have an impact during the July property taxes, but December is around the corner and we're not sure, again, what the economic impact is going to be and if we will be so fortunate to collect most of our property taxes, et cetera, from the revenue side. So I'm not opposed to keeping it higher than we would normally keep it. However, I think we don't need to be pigs about it, I guess, to say it nicely, but I kind of think we should use 150,000 of it, in my opinion, and get the tax rate down to where it will also keep our fund balance safe, but also help the taxpayers as well. That's my opinion and recommendation.
well, I know that we really try now to keep it level as we go year to
Mhm.
year. So I'm not sure about dropping it down to, what is it,
1093.
we're talking about, a small swing here between 100 and 150, but I voted for the 100,000. I thought that kept our fund balance, full. Used some of it for actually lowering the tax rate to $11.04. That was my thought. We have one more thought to go.
Yeah, I'm worried about the businesses, how many businesses are gonna be affected, because that would obviously be a hit with the taxes. If, people are having trouble making ends meet. It might put a little stress on us, so I might think about the 100,000 myself. To give us a little extra buffer in case something does come up like that, or taxes aren't
Right,
paid
if
back.
somebody doesn't pay, then at least we have something in the coffers to see the town business through.
And, again, if we have, as things clear up, hopefully, next year at this time, we can, maybe knock it down to a more reasonable amount.
Yeah, or use more of it. Is that acceptable?
Yeah, I'm just concerned also about the input we got from taxpayers last year, that the taxes keep going up. And again, that's a general statement because our tax rate does not go up. It's the county, local, and state taxes that, county and state and school board and other taxes that continue to rise. My other concern is that if we have a feasibility study that we have going on for a fire station and for school renovations, I wonder how much our taxes are going to increase if those things get approved and processed down the road too. So there's, we're going to see some kind of blip up and down if things do get approved. I feel like the businesses are one consideration, but the taxpayers and the individual taxpayers are another consideration that we have to be careful of. So even bringing it down by an additional 50,000 and using 150,000, we're still far above our standard of what we'd like to keep in our fund balance. We're also still under a pretty severe spending decrease, so we're trying to really keep our spending at bay and only spend money where it's necessary. So I don't know, I feel like I look at a number and perceptually having our tax rate under $11 just sounds very appealing to me. And it's something that I feel like the taxpayers would be very surprised to see as well.
Can we do 125? Is that, we're going between those? numbers?
Yeah,
We can do anything. we
Seems like
choose to
125
do.
seems like a nice compromise.
meet in the middle.
Meet in the middle. Works for me.
That sounds great.
Is that good?
So you want to use 125?
125,000?
Okay,
Going off the chart.
Yeah.
and I'll need you all to vote on that.
All right, I'll make a motion to have the tax rate set at,
Oh, we don't know what the tax rate,
not tax rate, excuse me, the
to use,
fund balance, use $125,000 of the fund balance to offset the tax rate.
and I will second that.
And just so people know, that'll fall in between 11.04 and 10.9.
Right.
It will actually be $10.99.
There you go.
So I got my wish, and it gets to be under $11 for our tax rate. So I'm all about my perception.
Yes, second.
No, I appreciate the chats we get to have and the negotiations. It's nice
John, how
to.
do you vote?
Did we get a second?
I did second the
I vote
125,000.
yes.
I vote yes.
Barbara, how do you vote?
I'm sorry, I vote yes. So anxious
We're
now.
excited. Bennett, yes. Okay.
And
That's
Julie,
good,
thank you
yeah.
for the work that you do on this, as well as with the advisors that we have, that we're very fortunate to have a fund balance to talk about.
We, at one point, were down to none,
No,
which was not, I don't think was a good choice.
that's tough
And
to
I'm very
sleep at
pleased
night.
that we do have a fund balance. Okay, the next item is the travel and mask policy for town employees.
Julie, did you have that piece of paper with what we were
I
gonna read?
believe I believe I put it in there. I believe, see if that's the one you're referring to. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so Emily Benson and I have been chatting, and then we've also been chatting with other officials, legal counsel, et cetera. So we're going to make a very quick motion, if it's okay. I'll read this in and we can make a motion if it sounds good, to do a very short policy at this time until we get a more extensive policy. So what we'd like to make a motion for is all town employees, full-time, part-time, including on-call firefighters and elected officials, shall notify the Board of Selectmen prior to traveling outside of New England. Please email Julie Atwell, Town Administrator, and she will forward your travel plans to the Selectmen. This step is being taken as another way for all of us working together to keep our town and wider community members safe in these uncertain times. And that's just an abbreviated policy so that anyone that travels outside of New England can let us know, and we can decide if we feel like there's a risk that we should do something further. We're also going to be using the sort of the Primex guidelines to say if you had these symptoms and the things that we've all encountered over the last year. Questions that people ask you every day. Do you have a fever? Do you have a cough? Are you short of breath, etc.? Any thoughts or concerns?
No, I'm fine with that policy.
Did you want to read it again, or are you good?
Want to read it?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Should we vote to implement that as a policy? I'm prepared to do that.
Make a motion to accept the travel mask policy as read a few minutes ago.
And I will second that.
John, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Barbara, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Bennett, yes.
And then if we have anything more extensive down the road, we'll throw it back on the agenda. I do want to say personally that I want to thank everyone here today for keeping your masks on and sitting with masks on, also attending on Zoom, because it's nice to be able to see everybody in person. But I think it's very respectful that we're able to do this and have people attend with masks on. So that's my opinion.
And thank you for letting me open the windows.
Absolutely. Next time you have to call ahead so I can bring a blanket. All right, thank you.
The next item is a letter of request for a warrant article to recognize C.T. Jackson as the name holder for the town of Jackson.
So that letter got posted along with the meeting minutes from last time, and I did not get any comments back from that. I believe Jerry did get support from the Historical Society.
Yeah.
And there was actually one other comment from Leslie Shoemaker that, about the tin, that that C.T. Jackson actually was one of the first, or was the first one to discover tin in Jackson, which was the first discovery of tin in the United States, I believe, if I'm saying that right. So there was some more history.
So what do you think about the selectmen putting that on the warrant for the next town meeting?
I'm not opposed to putting it on the warrant for the next town meeting. I think it should be put to the public to,
Well, it's still
Vote on
going to be decided by the town.
right,
So all we are doing is putting the idea forward.
correct.
As opposed to Jerry getting the signatures.
Well, then he
Right.
has to get the signatures.
I have no problem.
Okay. Let's vote to add that to next town meeting's warrant.
I'll make a motion to add that C.T. Jackson get recognized.
I'll second.
John, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Barbara?
I vote yes.
Bennett, yes. We will have that on the town warrant. The right-of-way at Vista Way is still pending. We're waiting to, as I asked, for both sides of the road to get straightened out so that we can do this. What was K and L?
That is the Eastern Green quote that we got to
Oh,
share with the
okay,
library.
We agreed to do half the plowing at the church, and Eastern Green has put in their bid, and it's the same as last year, so that's for our information. That will be coming up. I think that's good that they held the price.
I agree.
And then the other one was just the new prices from White Mountain Oil, they did go down, so we didn't accept them for 1 year.
The pricing, we lock in a price is lower than last year, so I think that's actually reflects on Julie Atwell for doing her homework and getting those prices for us. Woo. All right. There's that. We have
Yeah.
short-term rentals.
You got a nice little spreadsheet there. I don't have one.
I asked for the large print. So,
Me?
look at that. I asked for the large print, yep. We have so many short-term rental applications, conditional use permit applications that we're on 8.5 by 17 paper here, wallpaper. So.
All right, so let's see, the first two have no septic plan or building permit on file. And we're pretty much stuck with whatever's on the tax card. Kevin Bennett, have you,
I did look at all this.
you looked at,
Yeah.
do you have issues?
I do, yeah.
Why don't you give us your rundown?
Good list?
Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
if you would.
Yeah. And I don't want to make notes as I go along, but.
Yeah, we will.
Okay. The first one, which is, Windward Avenue. 66D.
Mhm.
They're in the process of putting egress windows in. They have a contract with with LA Drew and, a whole bunch of other units over there do too. So they're in the process of changing out windows and putting egress in. So I would say, I think that would be okay. And I think I brought this up once before about some kind of conditional permit where, it gets done. We're trying to get them all in before winter here. So they're over there working on them right now, on some of the units that have permits. So, and if they don't get done, before winter really hits, they'll be done within spring pops.
So you go ahead with the.
Yeah, I would, yeah.
Okay.
Even though they don't have a proper regress, we're gonna,
Yeah, I thought we were not gonna do approvals without, like, with approvals with condition, just because we didn't wanna have to keep track of them, right?
Well, I think you did before on the Wentworth because of the fact that Kevin knew that they were getting, addressed.
yeah, if they're getting addressed, but they can't have them renting it out if they're not done.
Right.
I don't think because that puts them in jeopardy. That's why they're doing the windows.
That's true.
I think it's conditional, we'll give them conditional approval once the windows are done, but I can't let anybody stay there if they're not.
I have trouble with the concept of giving them, oh, it'll be okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So we'll say denied.
so we'll say denied
So
until the
we'll just say It's
resubmit.
on hold. It's not denied, it's just on hold until the work is done. Is that? the same reason why-
That's a safe way to do it, I
Yeah.
think, personally. I don't want to put anybody at risk.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So that's the first one.
Okay, first one, yeah. And then the next one is 42 Whitney Hill Loop. I actually had an issue just because, you can't, they got electric fence halfway around the house. So you really can't see the backyard, but I'm kind of familiar with the house, because it used to be a Jackson resident, used to own it, well known. And it's an older house, and we're just looking at where I think the bedroom windows are, I don't think they can get egress. And I think the thing to do is just to ask for an inspection.
Mhm.
They can grant one and let us in. We can take a look. If not, well, we can't tell, put it that way. I don't know what electric fence is all about.
Electric fence?
Yeah, there's an old electric fence around there.
is it working electric fence or
I
it's,
didn't wanna touch it.
I see,
It looks like
yeah.
it was, yeah.
And you don't know any.
It didn't look like they had like a dog or a cat or something back there. You know. So, and then somebody wants to switch back, that's fine.
Okay, but hold on a second. On the Whitney Hill Loop, we're gonna ask for an inspection for what purpose? To determine proper egress?
Well, to see what they got for windows.
It's for the egress windows.
But I thought they were signing the document stating that they
Right.
understood that and that we weren't doing inspections like that.
Well, put it this way, from what I see, the windows are too small.
Okay.
Okay, then we'll just deny it, but
So they can disagree and.
if they don't want the inspection, they can say no, and we'll just say, well, from our observations, you do not have proper egress windows. If they want to have Kevin go in and measure, I mean, it's straightforward.
It is.
That'd be the part of the appeal process, I would think, is that they would have to approve it.
Yeah.
You know, if they don't want to approve it, then they should get.
So the third one on switchback was okay.
That's okay, yep.
Juniper?
And then, 6K Juniper, number one, they painted the windows, most of the windows are painted shut.
Ooh.
I did walk around, you know how you paint the window and you put too much paint between the sides, well, there definitely haven't been no. And then there's definitely issues with either one or two windows being too far, off the inside floor, they're basement windows, they're way up high. And I know there's bedrooms in the pictures from the website. And then just on another note too, part of the deck, they added onto the deck, it's cantilevered much too far, there's no post under it. I don't know who did that, they didn't pull a permit, it was done a long time ago. It's definitely an unsafe situation.
Okay, I have to stop for a second.
Yep.
If I look at the conditional use permit and it, number 4 on the affidavit says, I have read New Hampshire Department of Safety Information Bulletin 2020-05. And then the next, which is smoke alarms and carbon monoxide detection devices and smoke detectors, et cetera. And number 5 says, I have read New Hampshire Department of Safety Information Bulletin 0-03, secondary means of escape, egress windows and doors, and all windows and or doors designated for emergency egress at the short-term rental property are maintained and in operational order consistent with this informational bulletin. Their smoke detectors are installed, maintained, and functioning consistent. They're signing this affidavit, and then it also talks about business space. They're signing this affidavit. So we're not requiring your inspection of this. And if we decide we want to go with a building inspection prior to all of these, then we're totally changing the conditional use permit. And we're saying that regardless of what you say in your affidavit, when you sign it, you could be signing it and just not adhering to the policies. I mean, we're making two different determinations. And I thought when we wrote this permit, when we approved this permit, it was based on the fact that they are attesting to the safety of their short-term rental. The fact that you happen to know that these are not following the rules, guidelines, codes is secondary to the fact that they're filling these out and signing them. So which way are we gonna go?
Before they sign it, they should be questioning, do they have any questions, and they're not. Because, I mean, just this house just alone, like I said, you walk around, all the windows are painted shut.
I mean, I don't wanna be signing these knowing that they're safety hazards, but if someone is filling this out and saying they think it's safe to stay there, and something happens and we don't know about it, or we do know about it, I mean, I guess we're shifting liability on.
Yeah.
I have a hard time approving a permit where we know there's a defect. We know it's a life safety defect. I think we would be remiss not to question it. Now-
How do we go about doing that, though? Do we do it by denying it and saying that you're perjuring yourself by signing an affidavit? Or do we say that it's, do we call them and say, I'm pretty sure you didn't mean to sign this because your house is clearly not up to code?
Usually, once you deny it, I get a phone call in a week.
Right,
And
and,
I'm like, yeah, I'll be down, like, you gotta come up there and meet with me. And what I'm finding out.
and say something goes wrong, they have a fire, somebody can't get out, people don't get out, and we go, well, we told you, you signed this affidavit.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I'd rather be proactive and say, no, you've got to make this right before you get a permit to operate. They're operating all over town anyway.
I agree with you with that. We don't want to see someone get hurt. However, we're not putting it on Kevin to inspect every single conditional use permit that comes over our desk.
Well, first of all,
we're-
these aren't gonna be infinite. We have a lot of them now because this is the first year doing this. I
Mm-hmm.
think once we get our feet under us and after a year or two, these should be minimal because these are gonna be reoccurring. I think it's important that we do make sure, I mean, these are observations Kevin's making from the road. He's not going on the property to see these. He can see these from the road, these deficiencies. And if you can drive by and see these deficiencies, I think they should be noted. And like you said, the person's perjuring themselves
Yeah.
by signing that. And I think it does do us a little,
Well, I think
I would be very remiss if we knew it and then didn't do anything
I
about it.
agree with that. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering where our limitation is then. Are you getting every conditional use permit that's filled out and checking those? Or
If
do
they
you,
show up on the selectmen's agenda, I usually, before the meeting, I somehow fit in my schedule to go out and take a look.
I just, when I get the permit, I check the property file for septic and building permits. And then I create that spreadsheet for you guys, and it goes to you and to Julie and Kevin.
so you're doing it based on the selectmen's agenda that comes out?
Yes.
So if Kevin were on vacation for 2 weeks and didn't get the agenda and get to drive by everything, we wouldn't know. I'm not trying to belittle this at all. I do not want this to happen where someone gets hurt and we know for a fact, because you've done your due diligence, that a house is not properly up to code. But I'm just, there's something in the middle here that we decided to do or not to do.
I really do.
They see the rent money instead of
When
the
you talk to
permit.
Jamie, you're finding out that 50% of homes that we go into don't meet the requirements for smoking.
Yeah.
And we're not checking those.
And I'm surprised it's not even higher than that too, honestly, with people.
And the
So,
other thing is, when you go onto their websites to look at what they're renting, you can see the pictures of the windows, like a
Right,
bedroom
yeah.
and a basement with no egress windows.
Right.
and that's what we're in the process of doing for, version 2 is, are we going to ask them to send in a copy of their advertisement? And are we going to ask them to, send in different modifications or have building inspections, et cetera? So maybe we should, Bill is sending me a note here that said maybe we should check with Peter and approve and then cite them for perjuring themselves or being against code or something. So I don't think we're gonna sign these and approve them, obviously, because of what we know now. But I really feel like we need to take the steps on what we are gonna do, because it is out of the scope of what this was meant to do, for you to be checking all of these at your own will. It's not something that's part of this process.
It's just me knowing,
Well, it's your ethics and how you work, but the process is supposed to be that they fill out the application, it goes to the planning board, it goes through the select office to be sure that the tax card and the septic are in cahoots or whatever, in adherence to their agreement here, and then we, barring anything else, then we approve the permit. The fact that you're going at that extra step is definitely putting us in a position that is outside of the scope of the way this was supposed to be happening.
Well,
Well, could you say that about her work on doing the septics? I mean, we,
Yeah,
I mean, could we just not do any septic work and just approve everything in?
No, because I think that was part of why it was supposed to come through
we were
the
not,
selectman's office, was to approve the septic or the building permit on how they were filling this out.
but, we were not supposed, originally, we were not, there's been conflicting information all the time, we were not supposed to research the files, but then we were told we should. It's been a lot of back and forth about the process.
I mean,
We thought the planning board was gonna review all of these applications that were coming in, and that they were going to be doing the legwork. And then they would do their comments and send it to the selectmen for approval. But that's not happening.
no, enforcement actually ends up with the select. The planning board doesn't have any power of enforcement, so it's gonna come to us. How we choose to do that is up to us. I don't think that, we have a mandate not to. I don't think there's anything that states we should not go out and look and just see the basic from the outside of the house.
Actually, there was, and that was where legal counsel came in when we were putting this permit together, and they advised us not to do a building inspection or a fire inspection, because then the liability could come back on the town. So if something, and I hope I'm getting this right, Bill, stop me if I'm not, as I know you're on there, but Peter advised us that if we required a building and or a fire inspection, and then something went wrong, and someone did end up getting hurt or whatever, even worse, then they could come back to the town and sue us because we had provided the building and the fire inspection. By the applicant signing this and signing the affidavit and saying that their property adheres to code, the liability stays with the owner. And again, I'm not ethically thinking that this is the right thing to do if Kevin knows that these things are not happening, but that was part of the legal decision when this was written, so we are not bringing the liability onto the town. Now, what do we do in the short term here? I think that now that we know that these are not up to the code that they're signing them on, then we should not approve them and go back to the applicant and say that, I think you better rethink this, and we'll probably have to engage Peter again and find out the right process that these should follow in order to stay with the intent that they were written in. And if it means that we don't do any more of these until we get that cleared up, then maybe we don't do any more of these, but.
Okay, I'm willing to wait. I'd like to, if it is a legal issue that puts us, the town, in legal jeopardy, I think we should research that.
And I'm not, we're not doing any inspections. These are observations from a website or observations from the road from our building inspector or Julie or whoever is doing these observations. Say, geez, those windows are not accessible, and you see them. There's nothing on their website. I don't see why that would be okay.
Right,
I mean,
I agree, I totally agree with you, please
I
know
know
that
it's
I'm
putting
not.
the onus on it, but again, we're not doing due diligence by checking to make sure. I think there is a certain amount of liability that the town is in, but that's building inspection part, I agree with. This is just looking at the data that they put online. And if we can see that information and say, wow, this is,
That doesn't work.
You
it
know what
doesn't
though?
work,
If Kevin is sitting here though, excuse me for interrupting, if Kevin is sitting here and the meeting minutes and the recording today say that Kevin looks at the agenda items and takes it upon himself to look at these 10 applications, and number 11 comes in and he doesn't, and somebody gets hurt at number 11, then that person that died at number 11 can say, you know what, but you looked at all the others, why didn't you look at this one? You should have known my property wasn't safe. And I'm playing the worst devil's advocate here. I just don't feel comfortable moving forward with any of these until we clear up what the process should be, and if we should or should not be holding the building inspector liable.
Yeah, I agree.
They're supposed to have a fire extinguisher, right, in each house.
That was a requirement from the planning board.
Yep.
If you actually go to the,
And we're not inspecting for that. We're not saying, we're not checking smoke detectors.
Nope, they're signing the affidavit that they're
But they're
all.
signing it, right?
Mhm.
So
But how
we
does
can
that,
either sit back and go, okay, it's the honor system.
but how does that work if Kevin and Jay know for a fact that there are smoke detectors missing?
Well, that's what I have a
Like, we
problem
can't-
with. If you know,
Right.
either from a past inspection or a past building permit that they pulled.
Well, again, I think maybe we take this to Peter and say, do we approve it? And then cite them for signing the affidavit with false intent or whatever the legal jargon may be.
That might be the way.
Or
to
do
go.
we, I don't know. I think it's worth it to ask Peter and see what he recommends from here. Because I don't feel comfortable signing these if we know that something's wrong. I don't want to do that, but I don't think we can do some and not all. And I don't think we can do any of them tonight without knowing what the procedure should be.
I think maybe next year when the planning board or before town meeting, I don't know, they can do this, and Jay and me have discussed this a lot, that, there's this whole thing about being able to inspect someone's home.
Mhm.
And I understand that, but the minute you rent it to the public,
It's a business.
The
that's a
difference.
Yeah.
business.
And-
And there should be something in the zoning that says, or there's an ordinance saying that the minute you have your place for either short-term, long-term, it needs to be inspected
Mhm.
by either a fire chief, building inspector, or both.
Well, you do it for wet use, you do it for.
Right, well,
You
and
know, and
so-
if you don't like the law, don't rent, you can't rent your place.
Yeah, and let's look, so let's go backwards and look back at what Peter said and revisit it and see which way we want to go. If we want to take on that liability or if we want to, change it. And does anyone mind if I unmute Bill Terry so he can add some
Sure.
comments? Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to comment that we did go through the whole process of making a conversation around doing inspections and to what level we could do them and what was permissible under state law based on the status currently of short-term rentals, which is very poorly defined. It is defined in some respects as a business, but the state also limits our ability to do inspections. In fact, prohibits our ability to do inspections as part of the process that we established. And that is why we established the process with an affidavit as opposed to requiring or requesting the whole inspection process that we would have liked to have done. We really would have liked to have done. And yes, there is a town liability if, to Barbara's point, if we are taking on responsibility for inspections and not doing it 100% of the time, or taking on inspections, period. And that was part of the compromise that we made in order to move forward. I agree with all of what you're saying about if you know of something that's not right, how do you deal with that in the process of the approval? I think that's something that you can check with Peter on, but I would assume that a town official can be an aggrieved party, or the town can be an aggrieved party if something's come through and it doesn't 100% agree with what your understanding is, and that you can therefore fine somebody for not providing correct information, or immediately suspend their thing if it's not not meeting the requirements. There's some things that you could do. I think Peter would be the right person to talk to get everything put into proper place as to how you go about doing that. And I'll shut up. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Bill. All right.
So,
Are there any that you did find okay?
Yeah, there were a couple there, yeah. Yeah.
Do we want to approve any of them then that are okay and decide what to do with the ones that we know are not through a consultation with Peter?
hey,
Why do you say the ones that are okay and the other ones aren't okay, right?
Yeah,
That's what we look at the sheet.
Why don't we just hold this
Yeah,
whole thing
okay.
until we hear from Peter, and we can make a more informed decision on how we're going to go about enforcement. Because obviously, the honor code is not like the military academy.
right,
So we really have to be, I think we really have to be careful.
yeah. Okay,
Well, that leads us to complaints.
well, no, two,
Pending.
2I, pending,
Kudra,
No, that's
still pending, no
Okay.
word back.
sorry. No, if there's any results on that one.
Thank you, Kevin, by the way.
Complaints.
So pending Kudrick, whether he's going to challenge it, fight it, I don't know. I don't know what his position would be. So the STR complaints, we don't have, one was about the dump sticker.
Yeah, there were just, in last meeting, there were supposed to be 3 letters that went out. Only one was sent out because after looking at it further, one of the complaints was from the transfer station, and it was talking about the sticker not being fixed to the car, which we do not have a policy on yet.
Mhm.
So we didn't send that one. The other one, was someone that did not have an application, but we got the application in prior to getting a letter out.
Okay. Building permits.
All right.
They're all there for viewing.
Meaning Dick doesn't have to read them all if he doesn't want to.
Yeah.
No, we're ever so lucky to have our building inspector here today to read for us.
I'll just go real quick. So basically, 1 through 5 are all over at the Windward. They're all egress windows.
Yeah,
Yay.
So they are, I mean, they're putting it, it's great that they're doing it.
awesome.
All right, so that's great.
That is good.
And then going to number 6, just a renovation, laundry room on Green Hill Road. Started yet. And then number 7 is is a 2-car detached garage alongside the house, and I was up there 3 weeks ago, actually looking at the site. It's all set to go. And I think that's about it. What else?
Thank you.
So you're up to 110.
110, wow.
Nice.
Yeah, busy.
That beat last year, I think.
Yeah, and he just put like 15 more on my desk.
And then, do we have driveway permits?
None, so, none this week.
No,
No?
None.
Then we have upcoming meetings.
Yes, we
And that
do.
would be on November 3rd. Oh, no, November 3rd is election day. It's not a meeting, Tuesday. November 10th is our next meeting at 3:30. And the one after that is November 24th. When's Thanksgiving?
the
26.
Okay, we just snuck in there.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll have that. So I don't believe we're going to do a non-public today.
Nope.
Well, would somebody like to adjourn this meeting?
I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I will second.
John, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Barbara, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Bennett,
I'm not
yes.
voting no, I really won't vote.
John wants to stay longer. All right, thank you. And thank you, Joyce and Bill, for being on the call as well.